What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now. I'm Alex, and in this video, I want to look at an interesting tweet from IGN, an interesting thing that has happened to the Stellar Blade developers Shift Up. I want to talk about how I feel about it. I feel like it's kind of mixed online. I got some things to say, and I will be honest, I think it's actually a little bit more negative, at least the way I'm thinking about it. That can change, I suppose, but a little bit more negative than positive. So this happened, and I think originally maybe came from Bloomberg, but this happened actually yesterday on July 11th. Stellar Blade dev Shift Up goes public and raises a whopping $320 million. Now, in terms of like the background, you need to know, well, the going public thing is the main part, right? They made a lot of money. They had a lot of interest. I actually think, because I read part of the article, they had basically more interest than what was available. So there was like overwhelming interest to basically invest in them, right? To get a little piece of the pie that is Shift Up. And they were kind of overwhelmed. And I think it was like the second biggest in like Korean history and all this jazz. There's some kind of like leaderboard type things going on. I mean, it was a big day for them. And I do want to say, because, again, I opened this up with it's a little bit more negative than positive. The positive here is they're being rewarded for the good work. You know what I mean? I'm going to stay on the very easy side of Stellar Blade's a great game. I've said that, I thought that, I guess, leading into it. And then once I played it, it's like, yes, this is a legitimately good game. In a way, it comes, out of left field, in a sense, right? But this is a game that I had a lot of hope for. I think a lot of people did. It comes out. It does very well in terms of what the game is. I think just as in terms of like the literal game, it's a fantastic game. It's honestly one of the better games that's come out this year, okay? So I do want to say, like, overwhelming interest. They're getting more funding. That's another thing. Like there was even, I think, a quote in there where it's like this funding is going to help them produce and just put more money into various projects. We've talked about it actually right when Stellar Blade came out. There were a lot of interviews with the developer, and the idea from them is to basically, at least the last time we heard from them, was to create as many new IPs as possible because they see a lot of value in IP. So if you make, 3, 4, 5 games that are new, brand new, products and brand new like projects, right? And they're original. Well, you have those, and you can opt to make sequels to them. You can change them around. You can do whatever you want with them, right? But the more you have that are quality, the better. And I agree with that. I think that's actually incredibly good thinking, right? They're not, at least right now, they're not necessarily falling for the, hey, can we make 60 games off of the same thing? Can we make this a live service, and then can we make it a kart racer next year, and then can we do this and do that? For right now, it's about diversity. It's about getting games out mobile, getting games out on console, right? All of this stuff. And stuff, again, we've kind of talked about in the past. So I do want to say, I think all of that's a good idea. And I think in terms of the funding, like, hey, can they put that into future projects? Well, obviously, right? So that's all very good. There's just one negative. There's only one negative that I can see. And, again, the opinions of it online do range, I would say. And if you click on the IGN tweet, actually several of the comments are more negative. And I would boil it down in terms of my own opinion to just one thing. They lose the individuality. Okay, and that's really it. And now that's not a small thing. That's important, I guess, to say, right? It is one thing, but it is something that worries me. And look, in a perfect world, would I prefer, and this really goes back actually to like things I've talked about in the past with, would I prefer Microsoft to buy Activision and stuff? No, I don't. Like I want companies to be independent. I want companies to be able to make what they want to make. And right there's the key point. Right there is exactly the key point with Stellar Blade and with Shift Up. When you have what happened here, when you go public, you're now, I don't even think this is all that controversial to say, you're like a servant to the investors. And that's the gaming industry. In fact, that's kind of the world and that's life. So again, let me default to like my main position. If you can stay independent and rely only on yourself, I prefer that. I think that leads to better products. I think that leads to just a better situation. I get it. I get the world we live in. And also, as it has been pointed out, and I think people are missing this, they were already going to do this. It's not like they decided to do this yesterday. They announced that this was going to happen before Stellar Blade came out. Now, would they maybe have not done it after Stellar? If things were reversed, right? Because Stellar Blade did really good. And that's kind of, again, that's where I'm at, where it's like, Stellar Blade made a lot of money. It was a success for them overwhelmingly. You can stay private. You can stay just self-owned and self-operated, right? And you have more, I think, regardless of your political leanings or like anything you want to say on social media, right? You have more freedom. if you're by yourself, right? Shift Up had more freedom 2 days ago than they do now. Now you have to fit into this criteria. Now you have to do this and that. Now you're going to be answering questions from investors. Now maybe they have their hand in the picture, whereas before they didn't. You want to argue, people are arguing, oh, was Sony, going all in, and were they changing things or advising on stuff with Stellar Blade? Well, number one, they did kind of advise in terms of pacing and stuff. Like, we do know that stuff. But if people were worried about PlayStation messing with Stellar Blade, wait till now, because that's just the way this works. You know what I mean? And I would say pretty confidently, if you were afraid that there was something going on 5 months ago, what about now, where literally the whole point of doing this is that there is more say with people that are not your own. There's more say with people, random people that are not Shift Up, that are not the developers, than there were like a month ago, right? And I think that's something you can very confidently say and very accurately say. So that is the part that worries me. In a perfect world where, money was not an issue, and that's probably why you do things like this, right? Because now if you can push it off to investors, it's not so much on you. But this is how we get into things where it's like, hey, have you heard about this new fad? It's called, games as a service. Like, this is how you get that. These investors, these suits, right? They see these things and they just push it without really any care in terms of like how good the actual video game is. That's like the whole thing. So that is what I get worried about, is you're having more people around. You're having to answer to people. They have their own ideas of what you want to do. You lose a little bit of freedom. You lose that. You don't lose all of it, but you do lose some of it. And, you didn't have to. And you didn't lose it, let's say, a month ago versus today. So, and this is where I think I would separate myself, right, from other people. It doesn't mean I don't believe this means they're screwed. I don't think this immediately means Stellar Blade 2, if it happens, which I think it will, but Stellar Blade 2 is going to be a disaster. Could it be? Well, anything's possible. You know what I mean? And we do have to, keep an eye on it. But I, as I've said many, many times, I want to judge the product. I want to judge the video game. If Stellar Blade 2 has some people messing around with it and the product shows that, absolutely you can criticize and there'll be plenty to say. You know what I mean? I think it's just something right now. It's something we talk about. It's something that you can see happening. And now we got to see over the next couple years, what will this actually do? I just speculated of what I think it's going to do, but what will it actually do for Shift Up, right? For Stellar Blade 2, for their other games, whether it's ongoing or new IPs, right? What is going to change there? So definitely something to monitor. That's absolutely for sure. Let me know what you think in the comments. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel, bell icon turned on. I hope to see you all on the next one.